Hello friends and welcome to this session of Medicinal Chemistry of TY Farm. Today's topic is alkylating agents. So let us go straight to alkylating agents. Okay, so let us start with the topic of alkylating agents. As you all are aware, alkylating agents are a part of anti-cancer drug treatment. So, let us try to understand what are alkylating agents. Alkylating agents, as the name suggests, alkylate the DNA. They are also called as DNA cross-linkers. Now, alkylating agents are extremely reactive electrophiles. Electrophiles meaning they are electron loving or electron deficient species. DNA bases which are present in the cell have nucleophilic groups. The N7 of guanine is the most common nucleophile. Okay, so these DNA bases, particularly N7 of guanine, which has a lone pair of electrons, attack the electrophilic drug. And this attack results in irreversible alkylation of the DNA base. Irreversible alkylation meaning a covalent bond is formed between the alkyl group and the DNA base, and therefore it is not very easy to remove this covalent bond. So it is called as irreversible alkylation. Let us try to understand what is N7 of guanine before we go ahead. So this is the structure of guanine. If you start numbering from here, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. I will put the numbers if you want. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So one ring is complete, and then you go to the second ring. So this is N7, this is carbon 8, and this is N9. Okay, so N7 is nucleophilic in nature. It has a lone pair and it reacts very easily with electrophiles. Let us see how it reacts with electrophiles. The alkylating agent, one very common alkylating agent is a nitrogen mustard. There is nitrogen, there are two carbon chain followed by the chlorine on either side. So, N bis ethyl 2-chloroethyl amine, and there is one methyl group also. This is mechlorethamine. Now, when mechlorethamine enters the cell, just see what happens. This chlorine leaves with a pair of electrons. I'm sorry about this. Just a minute. Okay, let us try to rub this and start all over again. So, chlorine leaves with a pair of electrons. When chlorine has to leave, it has to leave with a pair of electrons only. Now, this carbon becomes positively charged, and this nitrogen has a lone pair of electrons. So, this nitrogen tries to form a bond with this carbon, and so what is formed is a three-membered ring containing nitrogen. This is called as aziridinium ion. Okay, this aziridinium ion is attacked by N7 of guanine. So this is nitrogen, this is positively charged. It doesn't have a pair of electrons. It is in search of pair of electrons, right? So this is the carbon which is electron deficient because of adjacent nitrogen. So this is attacked by this. As a result, and so what happens is N is attached to CH2, CH2, and then guanine, CH2, CH2, and then this. Okay, this N of mechlorethamine is attached to CH2, CH2. How? This N to this CH2, then to this CH2, and then to N. Okay, so this results in alkylation of guanine. There is one more chloro over here. Because of this chloro, the same reaction repeats. And what happens ultimately is both the chlorines are replaced by guanine. Okay, so there is a cross linking between two guanine residues. I hope everybody gets this cross-linking between two guanine residues, because when chlorine leaves, it is guanine that attaches over here, and even on the other side, other guanine attaches. So a cross-linked structure is formed. Now, just see how this cross-linked structure looks like. The cross-linking can be between two adjacent guanines if they are present. Can you see this? There is guanine over here. Adjacent also there is a guanine. So the cross-linking can be between two adjacent guanines on the same strand, or the cross-linking can be between two guanines on the opposite strand. See, it cannot be exactly opposite of guanine because there is cytosine, but adjacent to cytosine can be guanine, and therefore two guanines which are nearby and on the opposite strand can get cross-linked. So this cross-linking is between two guanines of opposite strand. Okay, so that is about the mechanism of alkylation. Now, what happens because of this alkylation? The DNA replication stops, and therefore the tumor cells cannot grow further. The DNA replication stops. Now, why should DNA replication stop? That is because if there is such cross-linking of the opposite strands, this cross-linking is covalent. It cannot be removed very easily, and therefore the two strands cannot separate for DNA replication. So this results in DNA replication being inhibited, and that is helpful in case of cancerous cells. Now, coming to alkylating agents. There are four important alkylating agents of the same type, which are in your syllabus. Okay, these are mechlorethamine, melphalan, cyclophosphamide, and chlorambucil. Now, have a look at these and you will realize that this part is common, right? NCH2CH2Cl twice. This is a common part in all of these alkylating agents. What is different is what is attached to the N. Okay. Now, before we go ahead, just a trick to remember these names. Meclorethamine. Me stands for CH3. So this is a very simple structure to remember. Meclorethamine. This is melphalan. What is attached over here is alanine, phenylalanine. Okay? Phenylalanine is attached to this, and therefore it is here in chlorambucil. Bu indicates that a 4-carbon chain is attached. And remembering is very easy over here. In chlorambucil, what is attached is a butanoic acid chain. This entire thing is a butanoic acid chain. Just see 4 carbons. So butanoic acid. Actually, it should have been numbered as 1, 2, 3, and 4. Butanoic acid. So chlorambucil and meclorethamine are very easy to remember. Melphalan, phenylalanine. Okay. What is attached over here is phenylalanine. And in cyclophosphamide, okay, there is a phosphorus to which 2 oxygens are attached and 1 nitrogen. Okay, this will take some time to remember, but you write it twice, you will be able to remember it. Okay, now coming to chemistry of alkylating agents. As I mentioned earlier, all of the alkylating agents differ only in the nature of substituent that is attached to nitrogen. Just have a look at this. Chlorambucil has phenyl ring. I am very sorry. These names have been. So this is melphalan. And this is chlorambucil. Okay. Now, how is this group important? This group decides the chemical reactivity. The group which is attached to nitrogen decides the chemical reactivity. It decides oral bioavailability, and it also decides the nature and the extent of side effects. Okay. So, these groups which are attached to nitrogen can be divided into aromatic substituents and aliphatic substituents. Okay. So, considering the aliphatic substituent first, meclorethamine is the first drug which was used as alkylating agent. Here, there is methyl group attached. This methyl group, is electron donating in nature. If methyl group donates electrons, then what happens? The electron density on this nitrogen increases. Okay, methyl group donates electrons, so electron density on this nitrogen increases. Therefore, the aziridinium ion becomes very reactive. Actually, the aziridinium ion that is formed, that is this ion, should react only with DNA or so that DNA is alkylated. But because it becomes very reactive, it can react with any nucleophile. Because it reacts with any nucleophile, it can react with water also. Okay? Water is a nucleophile, so it can react with water. And once it reacts with water, it is deactivated. Upon reaction with water, the alkylating agent is deactivated. So, what happens if it is deactivated? It cannot be given orally because the stomach and all contain water. So, it cannot be given orally. Apart from that, it reacts very easily with nucleophiles such as SH or OH or NH. And because it reacts with any and every nucleophile, there is no tissue specificity and there is an increased risk of serious side effects. And so, alkylating agents containing aliphatic substituents are less commonly used. Now, coming to aromatic substituents. Okay, let us try to understand what happens to nitrogen when there is aromatic substituent. The aromatic substituents withdraw electrons. If you can recollect that aromatic amines are less basic than aliphatic amines. Okay, that is because aromatic substituents withdraw electrons. Now, when they withdraw electrons, they reduce the electron density on nitrogen. Okay, when they reduce the electron density on nitrogen, what happens? The rate of formation of aziridinium ion like this is reduced very significantly. And similarly, rate of nucleophilic attack is also reduced significantly. I repeat, rate of formation of aziridinium ion and the rate of nucleophilic attack by N7 of guanine, both are reduced very significantly. Now, because the rate of formation of aziridinium ion and the nucleophilic attack is reduced, the reactivity is sufficient to enable oral administration. The reactivity is just enough to enable oral administration but reduce toxicity, and these aromatic substituents offer enhanced tissue selectivity. Okay, so the alkylating agents containing aromatic substituents are more preferred. Coming to individual drugs, this is meclorethamine. I mentioned here how to remember meclorethamine. This is a common template or common scaffold of alkylating agents, N and CH2CH2Cl on either side. Okay. What you have to remember is what is attached. As suggested in the name, Me stands for meclorethamine. This is the only aliphatic nitrogen mustard which is currently in the market. It is highly corrosive upon skin contact. As I mentioned, why should it be highly corrosive? Is because it can alkylate any nucleophile that it comes across, being highly reactive. And so if the skin contains some nucleophilic residues, these nucleophiles can react and therefore this is corrosive. Obviously, high reactivity is also associated with higher toxicity. And then parenteral administration is required. Just look at the name, bis, 2-chloroethyl, then methyl amine, or N-methyl, N-2-chloroethyl, 1-amine. Okay, you can remember this. This is very easy to remember. Bis 2-chloroethyl methyl amine. administered as a hydrochloride salt so as to increase the solubility. The tertiary amines are very rarely highly soluble, and therefore, when you make a hydrochloride salt, it is soluble. Used in combination therapy of Hodgkin's disease, chronic myelogenous leukemia, and other blood cancers. But there are some blood cancers now, particularly chronic myelogenous leukemia, where a better drug known as imatinib is available. Unfortunately, your syllabus doesn't contain the latest anti-cancer drugs. So, let us go to the next compound, chlorambucil. As I told you, this contains an aromatic substitute. And easy to remember, this chloram is associated with this part. Okay. N2-chlorodiethyl amine. And on the other side, at para position, is butanoic acid. So, just have a look. This is butanoic acid. This is named as butanoic acid because acid gets a priority over amine. Okay. Butanoic acid is attached to phenyl. Phenyl is attached to amino. And amino has bis 2-chloroethyl substituent. Bis means twice. 2-chloroethyl substituent twice. One thing to be remembered is its metabolite. This metabolite is an active metabolite. Often questions come which state which of the following drugs have active metabolites, and that you should be able to remember. That's all. This is used in combination therapy of Hodgkin's disease, chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and other types of blood cancers. Now, coming to melphalan, this melphalan is 2-amino 3. See, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. At 2 position, there is amino. At 3 position, there is 4 bis 2-chloroethyl amino phenyl propanoic acid. Okay, this is also given as hydrochloride to increase the solubility. Now, phenylalanine, like any other L-amino acid, is actively transported into the cell. What do you mean by being actively transported? Actively transported means against the concentration gradient and utilizing energy in form of ATP. So what happens? Most of the phenylalanine is taken up by the cells. Okay. Although the concentration extracellularly is less, still all of the phenylalanine can be taken inside the cell. So it was thought that melphalan will also be actively transported into the cells. But it is transported via facilitated diffusion. Just remember this, facilitated diffusion is not against the concentration gradient. And this is mainly used in the treatment of multiple myeloma. I had remembered during my student days as this multiple myeloma melphalan. This is cyclophosphamide. Okay. This is a prodrug. It requires activation by metabolic process, that is enzymatic process, and sometimes hydrolysis, that is a non-enzymatic process. Okay. This attached to this nitrogen is a phosphenan 2 amine. Okay. It is oxa-aza-phosphenan 2 amine. Okay. It is oxa-aza-phosphenan 2 amine. With this, we are ending this lecture. In the next lecture, we will continue with the metabolism and activation of cyclophosphamide and the therapeutic uses of cyclophosphamide, followed by busulfan and thiotepa. So, with that, we end today's lecture and then see you in the next lecture. Thank you.